Alban reveals that in this world he is a nobleman. He explains that he is 15 years old. He says he suddenly realized something. A Goniaknia woman comes in and apologizes profusely. He reports that death awaits him. He says that he is a villain with a terrible character, a complete scumbag, a combination of arrogance, insolence, and laziness, yet a genius who has never made an effort in his life. They say that he lost his parents early in childhood, and because of this, his character was distorted. He says that he will definitely die. Alban goes broke after entering the academy, the direct cause being his loss in a duel with the main character. He needs to start changing his life no matter what. Suddenly, someone knocks on his door. Butler Seabass enters and asks for forgiveness from Mr. Alban. The butler introduces himself. Seabass Christian, the main pillar of the house, supporting it. The man asks if they really change their clothes themselves. He says it's quicker to put the clothes on himself, and notes that old Seabass is touched. Seabass explains that there's no point in crying over such a mundane item, although after so many years of caring for it, it's hardly surprising, and says, "Okay, Seabass." Alban tells him that he has decided to lose weight and wants him to teach him fencing since he is skilled with a sword, to which he reacts with surprise. The guy tells him that if he doesn't change, he has no future, and says he shouldn't believe such words. The man asks if he hit his head, and he reassures him that he definitely didn't hit his head and that he's fine. Alban says he thought that if he stayed like this, he wouldn't find a wife. The man says that given Alban's situation, there won't be any problems with marriage proposals. Alban says he can handle both the diet and swordplay in 6 months. The man says that since Alban is so determined, he'll listen. The man says that the unworthy Seabass Christian will help with all his might. He remains silent. The boy strives forward, even though everything irritates him. A week later, the man asks Alban if he's giving up yet. Alban says his legs are aching, his hands are shaking, and his side is in terrible pain. Seabass explains that he needs to master the basics first. Seabass says that muscles also need to be trained in a balanced manner. The guy says that he knows this and screams in pain. The guy breathes heavily and falls to the ground, says that he can't, his body doesn't obey at all, every breath causes pain in all his muscles, and he says that's enough for today. Alban reports that he was initially in terrible shape, but there is still plenty of time and there is no need to rush. Seabass but reminds him that if he trains at this pace, he will lose weight in a year, or rather in 3 years. Leticia says even this is incomparably better than before. Seabass explains that it's stressful, but he'll continue. The man says that he will accompany you everywhere and that this is exactly the mood. A month later, Seabass offers his students some praise. But progress is still slow and requires work and training. He advises not to let down our guard. Seabass says he's always extremely serious and asks them to fight seriously. Alban reports that 3 months have passed and he's trained well and lost weight. He says he didn't think there was a dungeon in their domain. Seabass explains that this place is considered one of the least dangerous dungeons, inhabited only by relatively weak monsters. The man explains that after 3 months of training, Alban's swordsmanship is already approaching mastery. The teacher wants to see if the man's sword is fit for real combat and asks to see the results of his training. The guy says it's like a final exam. The man says it's a lesser monster called a goblin. The man asks if Alban can cut him down. Alban remains silent. The teacher explains that they usually travel in packs, but this one apparently got separated. He says he can't let them get away and says he'll stop them now. A man with a club prepares to fight. Seabass reports that he initially thought it would last 3 days. He explains that he thought the lazy brat wouldn't be able to hold out, but notes that the boy was learning everything at an incredible rate. A genius who works has no limits. He strikes. Alban hears a creak and turns around. Seabass is worried and says that he doesn't remember the last time he was so worried. He confidently admits that Alban is the true beloved of God. A swordsman's cry is heard. The man claps his hands and says, "Excellent." Alban turns to Seabass. The man explains that it is a frighteningly cold-blooded and merciless sword. The man says that they have become strong and that he has nothing more to teach them. Alban says he can't die because he doesn't want to die. He clenches his fist. A voice announces above the mansion that 6 months have passed since the training began, and someone calls out to Seabass. Alban says he received a marriage proposal, and Seabass reports that Alban is speaking too loudly. He says the diet has had a fantastic effect, and now he'll finally have a bride. He asks what she's like, and that it would be great if she were sweet and kind. The man says he's afraid this isn't exactly good news. The guy asks which house made the offer. They tell him it's from the Duke of Barrow's house. A shout is heard in the background of the house. He announces that the Duke of Barrow's house is of much higher status than the baronial house and asks why they were chosen. Alban says he was married in the novel. The man reveals that she is Leticia Barrow, a troubled woman whose engagement was broken off because of her misdeeds, and now she has nowhere to go. He says that what was all his 6 months of effort for? It means he is still on the direct path to death. The man reports that the daughter of the Barrow family seems to have a rather difficult character and wants Alban to hold on. Alban says it's all infuriating. He says that all this is too much of a hassle and suggests giving up. The man remains silent. The man says that if they want to turn the Barrow household against them, they must do what they can. Alban says that's even more tedious. The man explains that there's no need to be so downhearted. Seabass tells him that if he establishes a connection with House Barrow, House Odrin will be safe for a long time. Alban replies that no, it is precisely because of this connection that he will die, and then laughs and agrees that the man is right. Alban asks what she's done. The man explains that rumor has it she embezzled land taxes and brought young men to the estate. She's also an incredible spendthrift and has her eye on her fiancé's fortune. Alban is indignant that all of this was completely pointless, since he tried so hard and lost weight to change his fate. And it was all pointless. The man says that they will finally meet. Alban agrees. The girl thinks to herself that she can't afford to be weak, and she gets ready to go out. Alban says she's nothing like he imagined, and that's all. He also calls her beautiful and says hello. Leticia Barrow announces that she'll be living in the Odrin household from today on and asks for his love and favor. Alban apologizes. Seabass announces that he is a butler and immediately offers to escort them to their quarters, explaining that they must be tired from their journey. The girl expresses her pleasure at meeting them. The man asks where the maid is, and the girl replies that she doesn't have one. The girl says that she came here alone and asks to be escorted home quickly. The man asks Seabass what he thinks. Seabass explains that she is a very beautiful woman and apologizes. The butler says it's strange. Alban says the other man thinks so too. The man says she's too different from what they say, and her mannerisms are nothing like those of a loose woman. He says she seems more intelligent. The man says there seems to be some underlying reason. Alban asks to find out what happened to the girl, but in such a way that no one will guess. He says he'll try to get as much information out of her as possible and doesn't want to get involved in the Barrow household's problems. The man agrees. Alban says she thought some silly woman would arrive with nothing to talk about, but there is a sense of nobility in Lady Leticia. The guy says that perhaps she will become a worthy wife. The guy explains that even a mimic wouldn't eat such an adventurer. The guy suddenly stands up and calls Leticia. Alban asks if the man wants to talk to him, and the man says that this time the joke was just boring and orders him to shut up. The guy says he's been completely ignored for 3 days now and asks if he's really being shunned that much. He says he thought Mr. Alban's reputation had changed, but the feelings are understandable. He clenches his fist and says he can't just back down. The guy invites Leticia to go for a walk, then asks her if she's for herbs or potions. Leticia leaves silently. The man reports that it is a complete defeat. Alban says he'll never understand what's going on in Leticia's mind. Then he says he'll have to do something and knocks on the door, asking if Leticia can speak for a minute. Outside with him, but she remains silent. He says that this is ignoring him again, then takes the sword and explains that he will have to act like a villain. Alban pushes back sharply, dodging falling objects. The woman says something fell on the floor. The woman screams, "What's going on?" Alban says he'll fix the door right away and asks her not to worry. The girl indignantly says, "What is he doing?" The girl says they should be ashamed of themselves for daring to barge into a lady's room. Alban says he's a villain and a scumbag, but he's willing to break into the women's room to achieve his goal. He asks her out on a date. The girl asks in bewilderment, "Eh?" Alban says the air outside is so nice and asks Leticia if she feels the same way. Leticia replies that it's possible, and if Alban weren't around, she might feel it. He asks her not to be afraid, laughing. He says that he is still on guard, yes, and that if he were in her place, he wouldn't trust a person like Alban yet either. Alban says that the view is even better beyond this mountain path, and the girl reacts with surprise. The girl asks to wait and explains that she is not used to walking on mountain paths. The woman says that if he was going to go on a mountain trail, he should have told her in advance. He laughs, and the girl is surprised in response. The girl says not to touch her. Alban says that he will not do anything like that because it is too much trouble, the man sighs. Seabass says it's good that he trained and thanks him. Alban reports that this is a viewing platform with the best view of the Odrin domain and that he was very keen to show off this landscape. He says that this is the land that they will protect together. The girl listens. The girl says stop. Alban says he's very different from what they say. The girl explains that she heard a man named Alban Odrin is a much more arrogant, insolent, and petty scoundrel. He says the girl missed the word lazy and informs her that he is not a small-time scoundrel. Alban says he's a great villain. The girl laughs and asks if villains even call themselves villains. He says her smile is irresistible. The girl tells Alban that the water here is so cold and pleasant, and addresses him by name. Alban explains that this is a novelty for the young lady, who grew up in the city. The girl says it's nice to assert herself at the expense of a city girl. He explains that it's not at all. Alban tells Leticia that maybe they should take the opportunity to introduce themselves. Leticia replies that they still don't know anything about each other, and she's not really interested, but Alban is. Leticia Barrow says her favorite food is tea and scones, and her hobby is playing with children. He asks if she likes children. Alban says his name is Alban Odrin, his favorite food is steak, but he is currently abstaining for weight loss, and his hobbies are sword training and just lazing around. The girl says he's a strange person, either a hard worker or a lazybones. He says he thinks so too. Suddenly a monster approaches. The guy points at it and the girl says it's a killer bear. Alban reports that a forest bear is eating the crops and causing nothing but trouble. The girl says they need to run immediately. Alban notices the bear is aiming at Leticia. He says that it is some kind of harmful creature and warns not to approach Leticia. Alban says they were just having a conversation and asks if Leticia is hurt. Leticia explains that she's fine, just a little scared since it was her first time seeing a monster. Alban asks himself what he is doing. Alban says he's glad the girl is safe. The girl asks why he is so kind to her. The girl says that he is the victim of a political marriage and was forced into it. The man listens silently. The woman says he could just get support from the Barrow household and leave her alone, asking why he doesn't. The man explains he wants to coo to his sweet wife. The man takes the woman's hand and says he wants to know what she did. The girl advises that if he wants to protect Odrin's house, he should pursue her. Alban reacts with surprise. The woman says her fiancé was chosen when she was 5 years old. Duke Morrow was an infinitely stupid man. The guy speaks to Leticia, asking what she needs. The man says the tax hike is affecting the lives of his subjects. A man tells a female liaison with the Barrow household not to get involved in politics, and the girl laughs and says PFF, and Alban looks on in surprise. The girl says that. The woman says she said too much out of concern for them. The two girls laugh, and one of them explains that Link is too much. The girl says that he was an important suitor and that she was taught from childhood to serve those to whom she owes. She cries and remains silent. However, the girl hears a rustling sound. A girl asks for food. The girl coughs and says she's hungry. A man with a serious expression carries a large coffin, and a woman screams for her daddy. The girl explains that they themselves will soon have nothing to eat. If this continues, the woman says that the taxes of the subjects are something rather than allowing Morrow to spend them on such things. 3 years have passed. The man loudly calls Leticia Barrow and declares that from that day on he is breaking off their engagement. The woman asks what Morrow is saying. The boy tells her that as if squandering his family's assets wasn't enough, she also pocketed taxes from the land, and says she thought he wouldn't notice. The girl sits silently next to the chest. The man says that no matter what the reasons, a thief is a thief. The girl says that this is what it is. That's what it is. The girl says good afternoon to Mr. Bertoli. Her childhood dreams will apparently never come true. The man yells at the girl to get out of the house immediately, and the girl says that she has no right to cry. The girl says that she obeys and reports that she was ready for anything. The woman informs Baron Odrin that this is her new fiancé. Alban explains that the man all the nobility whispers about, the most arrogant, impudent, lazy, and terrible man, should be God's punishment for his evil deeds, but it is the real Alban. A guy asks a girl to go on a date with him, asks if she'd like to meet him, and offers to introduce herself. The girl says she's glad he's safe, and the guy confirms he's glad too. The guy explains that this is land they'll protect together. Another guy tells a girl, Leticia, to hurry up. The woman says he looks at her for real and tries to trust her. The woman says that she doesn't want to put Alban in danger, and that's why she shouldn't involve him. She doesn't want anything important to be destroyed anymore. She doesn't want to hope and lose, and she doesn't want anything else. The girl says she doesn't know what to do. Alban reports that Lady Leticia has been framed, and the man says that enough is enough. He says that we need to decide how to kill him, then says so. Alban says they're not done yet. The man says he'd rather use bandits, kidnap her and drown her at sea, hire a torture professional. No, he'd rather do it himself. Alban asks what's wrong. Morrow is a complete jerk and a traitor. He accused her and abandoned her, and that's it. The man reports that it appears to be true that Lady Leticia used the assets of the House of Bertoli. He reacts with surprise. Alban says it can't be, that she would never do something like that. He tells her to calm down and explains that it's true, but there's a reason for it. He asks what the reason is. The woman reports that Lady Leticia was embezzling land taxes and using them to protect orphans suffering from poverty. The girl smiles and listens. Alban says Leticia did it for the sake of the orphans and also said she loved children, which the man confirms. The man claims that Leticia's alleged squandering of the Bertoli family's assets was an investment to improve her standard of living and combat poverty. He says, well, that means she was cleaning up the mess of his incompetence. The girl explains that if he wants to protect her, then he should oppress her, and adds that her attitude toward him is probably due to the fact that she was worried about him. Alban speaks to Seabass. Addressing him by name, Seabass says that he is listening to Master Alban. He asks what he thought when he found out the truth and asks him to be honest. The man replies that, in short, it's what the hell. Alban says he feels the same way now. He then asks Seabass to help him and says they'll show the bastard who framed Leticia what it means to be a true villain. He says that he said he spread rumors. The girl asks what he just said. The man takes a piece of bread and makes a sound of surprise. Alban Odrin plots revenge on Duke Morrow to wash away the shame of Lady Leticia. He says that these are just rumors. Leticia says that this shouldn't be done. Duke Morrow will pay attention to him. He reassures Leticia. Alban reveals that he actually started another rumor to gain sympathy. The girl asks, the other rumor? He says that Leticia and Odrin have a bad relationship. He wants to get Leticia hooked on a secret potion and extort money for Duke Morrow. He says that this is how it is. The girl says this completely contradicts the previous rumor and confirms that it is true. Alban says rumors work best on those with a guilty conscience. He explains that's why it's good. The girl expresses bewilderment. The man reports that this is completely opposite to the previous rumor. The girl reports that rumors are circulating around town, saying that Lady Leticia is being kept locked up or that she's not allowed to spend her pocket money. The man explains that this is a man with a never-ending bad reputation. The man says the rumor that he and Leticia are at odds might be true. The girl asks why. The girl tells him that Alban Odrin is a guy with a terrible temper, and there's no way he'll get along with that boring woman. Alban screams in panic. The man smiles and says that rumors are just rumors and aren't enough. They need to take another step. Alban explains that everything is clear and he reports that that is why he decided. Leticia says only a sound of surprise. The woman apologizes and says she can't help or drag the Odrin family into this simply for her own revenge. Alban explains that it's not just for revenge, and that if it continues as is, he himself won't be able to come to terms with it. He then calls Leticia and reveals that he's learned all about the true reasons for her crimes. He says it was all for the sake of saving the land. The girl says that it is a fact that she stained her hands with crime. The woman asks if Alban will regret it if he learns the truth. Alban replies that he won't regret it at all, quite the contrary. He says that he is happy with all his heart to know the girl. Alban says he has decided to take care of the other person for the rest of his life. The woman says he's the one worthy of being her husband and she'll never let him go. He says he won't oppress her, even if the sky and the earth were to change places. The girl tells Alban. Alban explains that this doesn't mean he's asking that guy. Alban says he'll definitely make him pay for making the girl unhappy. The girl says that these are big words. Alban says that great villains value their family above all else, and the man asks if she doesn't know that. This is reported to be the food warehouse of the Odrin Holdings. The woman reports that she was kept waiting. The man laughs and calls Leticia. The girl says Mauro Bertoli is still as brazen as ever and asks him to call her sir. The man says he is surprised and did not expect to receive the letter. The man reports that there are so many complaints about Baron Odrin that it's no longer a letter, but some kind of cursed amulet. The girl says she can't take it anymore and that being the wife of such a man is unbearable. The girl says that he became like this in his youth, and the man asks to save him from the Odrin house. The woman says that Baron Odrin is the most terrible man, and the man explains that she must have had a very hard time, to which the woman confirms this. The guy laughs and says coo, coo coo, then laughs loudly ha 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 ha. The girl asks, is it a lie? The man reports it seems. The woman reports to Baron Odrin. The girl exclaims Alban's name. The guy says that he also coordinated his actions with Baron Odrin, and the girl asks what he said. The man says there were rumors circulating about whether they were getting along, but when the girl's letter arrived, he was convinced they were on bad terms. He then explains that by asking him for help, the girl pulled the trigger that would destroy her. The girl says no. The man says the woman has always been deeply repulsive to him, boring to the core and without a shred of charm. Alban remains silent. The man explains to Alban that he was only able to break off the engagement that time and lacked the strength to do more, noting that he is the Duke of Barrow's daughter. The man then reveals that he now has an excellent ally, loyal to Alban. Alban reports that Mr. Morrow has given the order. The man explains that the order concerns Leticia Barrow, to kill her. He says he was waiting for these words. A man with a sword strikes, destroying the surrounding area. A woman and a boy watch what is happening. The woman and man are surprised. Alban reports that the security at Bertoli's house is nothing special either. Leticia says they did well, and Alban reports that she played well too. The woman says she is honored to be praised, and the man responds by screaming in panic. Alban says Odorin. The man accuses someone of setting everything up. He says asking if he set something up. The man says that he first tried to discredit her, and then curses. Alban holds out his hand with a dagger and says he won't forgive this, offering to experience all the hopelessness Leticia endured. The girl and the little girl are silent, and the woman laughs quietly. The man says he didn't expect them to unite, and the girl says it's a betrayal and a serious crime. The girl says they're talkative bastards, and Alban says it's obvious. The girl says she thinks the impoverished girl and the Baron will just get together and get away with it, and then confirms it. The guy says that in that case it will be enough to prove Mr. Alban is right. The man with the eye patch asks who he is. Hugues de Crayon tells Duke Mauro Bertoli to calm down and not dare say he doesn't know who he is. The boy asks why Lord Crayon is here. The man with the eye patch reports that, on orders from his master from Babines, he came to the lands of Trader to investigate the incident and, by pure chance, overheard something terrible while asking if there was a plot to kill the Duke of Barrow's daughter. The man in the suit explains that everything. Audrin's letter says nothing about a conspiracy and offers to help get rid of Leticia. He says he doesn't understand what it's all about, and the man accuses him of planning it all. The woman says she intentionally said this in front of Mr. Crayon, but left no evidence in her letters, and considers him a terrible person. The man orders Duke Mauro Bertoli's arrest. The boy curses in response. The man declares it a duel. Duke Mauro Bertoli challenges Baron Alban Audrin to a duel to restore his honor. Alban says that now he can beat up his interlocutor honestly and openly, while he explains that all this is tiring, and reports that. Hugues de Crayon reports that he will witness the duel between them. Alban says that he will ask only one question before that, and the man says that he will definitely kill him. He says that if the man is going to apologize to Leticia, then he might let him leave more or less alive. The man yells back. A guy with a gun runs and says not to mess with him and to die. Alban reports that it is clear. He says that then he won't hold back. The man says that his nose is bleeding and asks what happened, if he was trying to kill him. The man is indignant, asking why he's missing and why he's so strong. Alban punches the man and explains that he trained tirelessly for 6 months. He says that for Leticia's sake, she always tried her best to keep him from ruining himself, and while he was having fun with women and tormenting his subjects, she tried to save at least some of them. The man replies that he doesn't care. Even if the peasants die, new ones are born on their own. Alban says shut up. He says that the nobles are essentially parasites, living at the expense of the people, and without the people they cannot survive. This is precisely what the woman understood, so she decided to take a risk to save the Bertoli lands. A man fights, thrusting his sword into another man's hand. Alban says he just trampled on her feelings and asks if he did all this. The girl calls Alban by name. The man screams Kia and falls backwards. The guy is breathing heavily and trying to grab the sword. He screams, "Don't make fun of me." He prepares to attack with the sword. Alban strikes with his sword, piercing the man's shoulder, causing the man's arm to be severed and fall to the ground. The man screams in pain that his arm is torn off, and repeats this several times as he stands nearby. The man says that here and now he too must experience this. Alban says that the interlocutor will experience the same hopelessness that she experienced. He says that he must die. He holds a sword and protects the girl who hugs him from behind. The woman says that this is enough, turning to Alban. The man warns that if he goes any further, he will tarnish his soul. The girl says that it is impossible. Alban says he can't afford to be weak because weakness is death. He tells Leticia that he wants to say something. Leticia smiles and nods. The girl thanks Alban for getting truly angry for her. The man with the eye patch and another man watch silently. Baron Alban Audrin is reported to have won the duel. Alban asks Leticia if she's sure, to which she replies that of course, all she had to do was pay for everything. Leticia begins to say something else. The guy says their acting was absolutely flawless, and the girl says they seem like they could make a great couple. Alban says they will be the best spouses and agrees with this. The woman says that, as befits a villain and a great villain, a pair of antagonists, he says he likes them from now on. In the next panel, he and the woman are sitting together. The woman says that they are evil and evil, the most terrible couple of all time. A month has passed since the fight with Mauro, and today is Alban's wedding with Leticia. Alban says he's very nervous and doesn't know what to do. The man advises Alban to pull himself together, as such nervousness isn't becoming of a groom. The woman says that since they're becoming a family, why not have a wedding? The man says that even the first time he killed a goblin, he wasn't this scared, and his heart is pounding. Another man explains that a wedding is wonderful and a major new stage in his life. Alban tightened his tie. The man said that his nervousness only proved how important Lady Leticia was to Alban. A man tells her he wants to see her in her wedding dress because it probably looks amazing, and he says he's right. The man says that Alban's late father was so nervous before the ceremony that he even hit himself in the face. Alban says father. The man says that these are very touching memories. He says his parents died when he was still a child. The man explains that he is honored to serve the house of Audrin at the weddings of 2 generations. He says that even his late father would be pleased with such words, and the man explains that he will always remain important to him. Alban says he was like a father. The man says, "Mister, he is." The older man says the words touched his heart and thanks him for everything he's done since Alban was a little rascal, to which Alban asks not to be called a rascal and adds that something else is more important. The girl in the dress asks if Lady Leticia is lonely. The girl explains that she now understands why she wasn't nervous at her engagement tomorrow. When you're tying the knot with a person you truly love, there wasn't that crazy trepidation back then. The girl says she can't take it anymore. The woman reports that she still has doubts and explains that she feels a vague fear about the future and wonders if she can be a good wife. Alban says that all of this is drowned in such a flood of happiness that he says that this is not like him. Sebastian reports that he has arrived and that the gentleman is already waiting. The speaker states that only today. The girl says she can afford to behave differently. The man says he's so nervous he feels like his stomach is turning inside out. Alban says, "Oh shit." Alban walks to the podium where the man is standing. He explains that first Sebastian and Leticia walk down the red carpet, then he lifts the veil, then the vows and rings. He says that the veil is lifted after. Alban announces that the bride has arrived. He explains that everything is very confusing, he's nervous and scared, and he wonders who came up with so many wedding rules. He says he can't believe this is happening. The girl says she's happy she can finally get married. Alban says she is beautiful and simply dazzlingly beautiful, just like an angel. No. He says the girl is like a goddess herself. The girl says she has something on her face. The guy explains that he couldn't look away because the girl is so beautiful. The girl says she'll take it as a casual compliment. The guy says that's not true. The man says that the girl is the most beautiful in the world right now, Leticia, and at the same time says that he doesn't understand what kind of person is on duty. Alban says that means he's not the only one whose heart is pounding with excitement. The girl thanks Alban and says she's pleased. The man informs him that the groom is Alban Odrin, and the bride is Leticia Odrin. The priest asks if they vow to love and honor each other in sickness and in health, in richer and poorer, until death do them part. The bride and groom answer that they do. The priest announces that they can now exchange rings. Alban tells Leticia that he's suddenly become afraid. Leticia asks if she, a fallen aristocrat, can be happy and wonders if she has a right to it. He says he will make the girl the happiest in the world. The girl replies that, of course, she will. The guy says it's his promise and then he puts the ring on the other person's hand. Leticia says she's so happy right now, and Alban says it's probably the happiest moment of his life. Alban explains that it's too early to call it the happiest, and Leticia says it is for her too. Leticia asks what. He says he makes the girl think again and again that now is her happiest moment, and that this moment is just the beginning. The girl explains that if there are many such happiest moments, then by the time they grow old, they will still not know which was truly the best. The woman says that now there is a new reason for joy in life. The man confirms this and explains that the most suitable thing is a smile. The girl says she's ready to do anything to protect that smile. Alban kisses the girl. The man announces that they are now husband and wife. He puts his hand over his face. The man announces that he pronounces Alban Odin and Leticia Odin husband and wife. He and Leticia stand together, and Leticia raises her hand. Director Faust says he'd like to recommend them and asks what the man thinks about it. The man turns to Director Faust. Alban says that if the woman explains that she is against it because they are constantly surrounded by bad reputation. Faust Melchizedek informs them that, as an exception, they will be given an entrance test. He asks, "What is the entrance test?" A man reports that he cannot understand why his eyes will not close. The young man informs Mrs. Leticia that she should take care of herself in the capital and return at any time if things get difficult. The young woman explains that the vegetables they planted together will be sent as soon as they ripen. The girl asks them not to be sad and says she'll return in exactly 3 years. The nurses say they'll go with her after all, don't want to leave Ms. Leticia, promise to become her maids, and will definitely do so. The woman informs her that the Odrin family's servants must take proper care of this estate and lands, and that it cannot be done otherwise. The man says that Lady Leticia is so strict, yet kind and delightful. Alban says that he is the master here and asks what he did. The guy says The man turns to Alban. He tells the girl that he's inviting her to the ball. The man says that if you need Seabass's help, you should contact him at any time, and asks you to be especially careful in the academy. Alban says everything will be fine and reminds that he has been training hard for the last 6 months. A young married couple reaches the age of 16, goes to hone their aristocratic manners and enters the Royal Academy of Magdala Familia. Alban explains that a long carriage ride is pure torture, and the woman says that they were waiting for Mr. Alban Audran, Mrs. Leticia Barrow. The servant informs that a room has already been prepared for Mrs. Leticia, and an examination test has been prepared for Mr. Alban. The woman turns to Alban and asks what the exam is. Alban tells her she'll have to participate in a bit of Moro's family's boring entertainment. The man explains that Moro's family just wants to play with him for a bit and asks him not to worry. The man reports that the damn bastard has finally appeared. It is reported that the Beltori family has paid a good amount of money, and all that remains is to frame Alban Audran. The man informs Mr. Bastian that he has brought Baron Alban Audran. Alban says he will make him fail miserably, and Mr. Bastian explains that he has a pathetic. He says hi and starts talking about today. The man shouts that he is late. The guy says it's unacceptable to keep the examiner waiting and asks if Alban plans to apply. Alban says that such pressure should frighten him and make him lose confidence. He says the carriage arrived on time and that they waited for him on their own initiative. The man says he's a scoundrel and asks how he dares to talk like that. He explains this with a smile, and the man stands there doubtfully, arms crossed. Alban says he will start the exam. He says to use magic and hit that target. The guy says that magic can only be learned after entering the academy and asks if that's true. The man replies that he won't succeed. Alban says it's a dark flame. He says what? The man says that combined magic is impossible. He can't use it and asks how it's possible. Alban explains that this is what happens when you train with Seabass for 6 months, not only in fencing but also in magic, and asks whether he passed or failed. The man breathes heavily. The man says that the next test is a mock fight, and if he can take at least 1 point from him, he will admit that he has passed the test. He takes the sword in his hand. Alban asks if demanding that he defeat the teacher before he even enrolls is too cruel. The man says that in that case, he'll make Alban fail right now and orders him to accept. The man attacks Alban, but Alban explains that he's only using one hand for now and asks what it is. The man screams. The guy says that the bastard here is a man. The man says AZ. He says here is the ass. A man throws an object and another man falls to the ground. The man explains that he cannot afford to die because he has a family he must protect. Alban says the man is weak. He repeats that he's weak, too weak, and asks if he's really a teacher at the Royal Academy. Alban suggests a serious sword fight or a magical duel. The man orders that enough. Alban demands a better way to entertain him and urges him to begin. The man tells Director Faust. He tells Director Faust. The man says, Alban reports that Faust Melchizedek, director of the Royal Academy Magdala Familia, is one of the greatest magicians in the kingdom of Varland. He reports that the young crayon called his interlocutor a talent that only comes along once in 100 years. The interlocutor asks if he knows about it, and he clarifies that he is Baron Audran. The man says that Director Faust. A man reports that this student attacked a teacher and demands immediate punishment. The man says the name Bastian. The man says that there is no place for mediocrity in this academy and orders them to pack their things and leave immediately. The man says he can't believe it. The woman says Alban is being ripped off. The man curses. The old man confirms Alban's admission to the Royal Academy and advises him to study hard. Alban thanks her for this. The old man says that this was a worthy response for the young man, but gives one final piece of advice. In the future, he should not mock teachers unless absolutely necessary and remember that he is only a student. He replies that he reprimanded him, but this time he was forgiven, which means he will try not to go too far in the future. Alban announces that the boy and another man will be living separately in a special building. The boy says the men's building is here, and the old man explains that the dorm is actually on the other side. He reports that the door leading into the hall is closed and explains that there are many people in the hall who do not want anyone to enter. The guy says he wants to know who his roommate is, then loudly announces he's coming in. The girl sits silently with a cup in her hands. The guy says he was brought here from the very beginning and that this isn't a women's dorm. The girl explains that they said it was a sudden order from the director and brought him here. Alban says that living with Leticia in the same room will definitely cause something to happen, and asks if his interlocutor wants him to become a father before graduating from the academy, an old bald grandfather. He says he's going to talk to the director about separate rooms. The girl smiles. The woman says it's a shame. She thought one bed would be enough. The man says okay, but asks for at least a partition between the beds. The man says to Leticia, while simultaneously moving a piece on the chessboard and touching his forehead with his finger. The man says that when he supported that scoundrel, he thought he had lost his mind, but now he understands his feelings perfectly. The man reports that the man has now seen Baron Alban Audron himself, whose talent is found once in 1,000 years. Alban says Gorda is strong, doesn't get carried away by his talent, and is completely merciless, but a demon has taken up residence in his soul, and he can't help but suppress his enemies. The man asks why he was placed with Lady Leticia. The man says that wasn't it she who suggested this solution to him, and at the same time turns to Mrs. Leticia. Alban says that she has the qualities of a wise ruler and will be an indispensable woman for Alban Audron. The man says he's already curious about what their relationship will be like. The bearded man shares his thoughts while looking at the raised sword. The man admits defeat and asks if what happened to Bastion is normal, to which Alban replies that it's okay. He was bribed anyway. Alban explains that new school rules are coming into effect this year and ends the conversation by saying it's checkmate. The guy says he's running to the gate. The man says the fucking bastards are looking down on him and breathes heavily. The woman says she'll get everyone dirty. Alban says this with a grin. The woman screams. He says that he will not tolerate violence against Alban Audron and the honor of this academy. The man screams, asking who is in front of him. Alban says he is there and immediately strikes the man on the head. The boy asks the girl if she's okay, and she says yes. The man lying on the ground says, "Damn it. Why does he have to suffer so much because of Alban Audron?" The boy addresses Alban by name. The woman says she heard he beat up a professor before he even enrolled and warns her not to mess with him. The man confirms it's him. The man reveals it's the notorious Baron Alban Audron. He says that Leticia is running late and explains that she said she would go get some flowers, but he has a bad feeling about her. The woman says the girl has a lot of nerve to even enroll here, and explains that there's no place for fallen young ladies at this academy. Alban ponders how to resolve this situation. The woman says the man smells of perfume and is a constantly yapping human dog, and also reports that he was closer than she thought. The man remains silent. The girl says they shouldn't have to endure humiliation. The man tells Leticia. The woman says eh. The girl grabs Alban by the sleeve and says that he. Alban says that it is a disgrace for a crowd of 3 to persecute one woman, and asks how they can call themselves nobles after that. He says that they were a waste of time. A man in a suit with a bolo tie expresses surprise. The guy asks if the girl is okay. She thanks him for his help. The guy explains that he just couldn't pass by and says that there is no need for thanks, and the man is surprised and asks who this handsome guy is. Alban says he can't believe this happened. Then Alban says he's not going to give up and will keep fighting. The man looks at Alban in surprise. The guy thanks his wife for helping him and calls him handsome, but he says there's no point in coming closer. The man asks if the girl is Baron Alban's wife and says he knows of Alban's exploits even among commoners. Alban confirms that he is Baron Alban Audron. The girl exclaims Alban's name. Leonil Highland says his name is Leo and expresses his pleasure at meeting him. He says his name is Leo. The guy says it's Alban. The girl says Alban. Alban asks what. He says he is not going to give up. The text blocks reveal that the castle where the king lives contains a secret room that no one can enter. Alban explains that this room is hidden from everyone and guarded by magic. In the next panel, Alban and the girl walk down the castle corridor. He says he's not thinking about expelling Leonil from the academy right now. The girl explains that she understands him because she's his wife. The woman says that she is not in love with him and there is no need to push Leonil away from herself, and also says that he should not make such a face. The woman says she'll get along with Leo. The man opens the door. The guy calls a two and says that it's Baron Odrin and Madame Leticia. The man looks forward with determination. The guy says he's glad they're in the same class and says it's a coincidence. Alban nods in response. The girl asks for a quieter voice and says they are in class after all. The girl says that nothing is impossible in this world. And the man explains that if you put in the effort, you can achieve anything. The woman says the main thing is not to give up. The guy says you need to believe in yourself, and he says everyone can change their destiny. The girl with a bow on her dress stands with a serious expression. Paula Babette greets everyone, announces that she is the class advisor for Class F, and looks forward to working with them. Paula asks Emma why she's so glum, then explains that she has a question for the teacher. Alban says his name is Ivan, and he is from the venerable house of the Duke of Scotland. He explains that he has to study with such a crowd and asks why they don't differentiate by title and class here. The man asks if this means he thinks they are commoners. He says that's exactly what he said. The man reports that these are the words of the academy's director. Forget about social status while you're studying, and recounts how he heard his lordship skipped the entrance ceremony. Another man says he doesn't see how this applies to him and asks if a commoner has taken too high a position. The girl says it's funny and turns to someone. The woman claps her hands and says she has one task for them first. The woman announces that new school regulations will be introduced this year and explains that one of them will be chosen to lead this class. The king. A boy asks the king. The man tells him that the 9 losing dogs swear absolute obedience to the king until graduation. The woman screams that they weren't told about this before entering. The woman says the rules are new and that nothing can be done about it. Alban turns to the woman, calls her a teacher, and asks how a king is chosen. The woman tells them to decide for themselves. She explains that they can measure their knowledge, strength, negotiations, fists, or money. The man says that if a king is not elected within a month, everyone without exception will be expelled. The woman says they'll use everything they have and orders them to throw their opponents down. The man announces they're having a joint battle, and whoever's the last one standing is worthy of being called king. The place marked below is number 6, Ronian. Stalagian. Estelle Applebury says a king must be elegant and impeccably mannered, but notes that this is a curiosity. Shani Grain asks them not to quarrel. Matthias Wolf informs them that everything is under his control, explaining that the richest rules the world, and that is the law. The woman says she doesn't care who becomes king. The text in the box indicates that this is seat number 5, Lucky Azalam. The woman reports that seat number 7 belongs to Carl Alexan. The man says that only someone with authority can be a king, and that wherever you look, there are only commoners. Leonil Highland is ranked number 8, Alban Odrin is ranked number 9, Leticia Odrin is ranked number 10, and Ivan Scottish is ranked number 3. The woman says there is someone who has authority above him, and then she explains what authority means. The man explains that then, a girl asks the teacher if she can nominate someone other than herself. The teacher says that then he will only say one thing. The king of this class is. The woman reports that only her husband, Alban Odrin, is present. The man, with black hair and bangs between his eyes, looks surprised, and the people around him react with varying emotions, from surprise to bewilderment. He says that first of all, let's at least decide who is the strongest here. The woman tells Alban that there is nothing to decide and explains that no matter how many of them come, he still won't lose. Alban says he can't believe what he heard. A boy says he can't fight because he doesn't know how. A man and a girl listen to him. The guy announces that Baron Odrin, a sloth, will suddenly become the most powerful king and says that this is just ridiculous, then expresses surprise. The woman tells Alban that they will prove to him that this is not a joke. Alban explains that if the opponent doesn't fight, he won't be able to enjoy the fight, and says that in that case, he'll simply leave. The man with the axe says he doesn't intend to fight, and the man with the sword says he doesn't intend to fight either. He says he's a zero skunk father. The boy turns to Alban Odrin and warns that if they fight, there will be no mercy, but Alban still offers to fight one-on-one. He says he doesn't want to let his wife down and sighs that it's freezing, of course. He advises that it's best to crush small bugs en masse and suggests attacking in a team of 3. The woman says it's time to go. Alban stands and looks ahead, and the girl with the spear prepares for action. The guy shouts that they've started. He says that they have plenty of determination and notes that this is not bad. The guy says that's not enough. A man with an axe and Alban with a sword are fighting 2 opponents, one of whom has fallen to the floor. The man with the axe stands next to Alban, and the guy with glasses watches the fight. The woman reports that Lone Stalagian and Matthias Wolf are out of the game. The man with glasses says Ivan is the only one left. Ivan curses and casts the Aqua VIP spell. The woman explains that a special magic circle has been cast in the arena that erases pain and abolishes death. The guy asks if Alban has magic, to which Alban replies that he is from the Scottish ducal family and has magic. He says that then everything is clear. Alban says it's a kid's trick. The woman announces that Ivan Scottish is out. Alban won this fight. The girl says he did a great job as expected and asks for more praise. Then the woman says that later, when they return to the room, she'll say, well. The woman says she offers to personally check Alban. The girl says she doesn't want to and has no intention of fighting such a monster. The man asks her to shut up, and the girl responds with surprise. The girl says that when she saw that fight, she couldn't resist and wanted to test herself. Alban is silent. He says that since then he has done nothing but avoid this fight, and that it seems that fate itself says fight. Leonil Highland says that he is the main character of this whole fantasy, and whoever goes must kill him. Alban announces that they are both ready and asks if they are ready. The girl says, well. He asks if Leo heard, and Leo says that he is always ready. Alban says he can't lose this fight. The man asks him to show what he's capable of and challenges the protagonist to action. The guy announces that they've begun. He stares intently at his opponent. The top panel, from right to right, shows 2 men with swords jumping toward each other. Alban strikes with his sword. The man parries it. The man declares that he will not allow Alban to go any further. He says he's doing well, and the guy says he's no slouch either. Alban says that even if Leonil is underestimated, he's still somewhere on his level, and that's a hero's advantage. Then Alban says that this is the hero's advantage, and that he was expecting it. He praises Leo, saying he didn't think anyone could hold out against him for so long, and admits. The girl says it's incredible. The girl with the flower in her hair says it's great. The girl in the dress expresses surprise. He, with the sword, declares that with such abilities, he'll show a little of his true power. The guy says damn when Alban throws a punch and says the fight is over. He says, this is how it is. The man reacts to this. He strikes the man with a sword. Alban explains that he has no intention of fighting a man who can't hold a sword. He strikes with his sword, creating a powerful slash in the air aimed at the man. The man steps back in response, expressing surprise. Alban delivers a swift and powerful blow with his sword, creating the effect of rapid movement and flying fragments. The woman reports that Leonil Highland is out. The man is breathing heavily. The girl and woman look away. The man lowers his head, sweating. The woman announces that Alban Odrin has won, and Alban is breathing heavily. He explains that, as befits Baron Oder, they didn't even give him a chance, and he's surprised. He says that, to be honest, he fought at almost full strength from the middle of the fight. The guy says that such strength can't be achieved without training. Alban says he was confident in his fencing, but now he clearly understands that he can do much more. Leonil Highland says he's still as dangerous as ever, though he still seems to lack tenacity, and if he's like that in the book, that's the end of him. He says whether it is worth giving him freedom just like that. Alban says he has decided. He puts his hand on his chest. He grabs the other man by the sleeve. The man explains that he can't let Alban go there alone. The boy says that he will become their knight and will serve Baron Alban Odrin. The girl announces that she's nominating him for Class King. The man in glasses looks ahead. Alban raises his hand and looks at the other guy. In the top right panel, he explains that he didn't think Leonil, the very man who was supposed to destroy him, would nominate him for king. In the top left panel, he says that it doesn't matter now. In the bottom right, he explains that as a reward for the duel, he'll be on a date. Alban says it tastes even better when Leticia feeds him, and confirms this with a drawn-out sound. Leticia asks if it tastes good. The man replies that it does because Alban fed him. The woman says they're guys from the Royal Academy. The man says it's already midday, and they're already being affectionate. The girl tells him there's a coffee shop with excellent tea in that alley, and Alban says they'll definitely stop by. The girl finds the shop and points to it, and Alban asks what it is. The woman says it's Chinoiks from their class. The woman tells Alban there's a girl there and asks what she's doing at the entrance to the coffee shop. The bell rings. The woman says hello and invites you to sit wherever you like. The man says it's a coat of arms. The woman asks if they are students at the Royal Academy. The girl says everything is ready. The girl says that she came here to help. Lady Leticia greets Shani and wishes her a good day. Shani exclaims in surprise, turning to Baron Audrin and Lady Leticia, and asks why they are here. The woman says they might be friends from the academy. The girl cries, clasping the stairs with her arms. The woman apologizes for the wait and announces that she's served tea and scones. The woman explains that the tea's aroma resembles leaves from the Syra Highlands, to which the girl is surprised and says the woman was right on target. The woman explains that she's a bit picky about her tea. The guy says it's absolutely delicious. The girl explains that Rahina has a characteristic deep aroma and richness, but no astringency at all, and that it pairs perfectly with scone. The woman says Shani has a light hand. Shani responds with gratitude. The woman explains that Shani has had an excellent memory since childhood and many talents, not just for cooking. The woman says she wants the girl to go to the best school possible and find a stable job. The girl screams, "Mom!" The man remains silent. The woman says that she always says that she will inherit this cafe, and the girl says that this place was left to them by their father and it is important to her. The woman tells her that the girl had such a hard time getting into the Royal Academy. The girl asks Shani if she's interested in the title of king. Shani replies that she's not one to stand above people. The woman understands this. The girl says she thinks they could become friends. The woman explains that she really liked the tea house and will make it her favorite place from now on. The girl is surprised and asks if that's true. The girl asks Alban if he minds, to which he replies that the tea here is really good. The woman suggests they come back tomorrow after school. The next day, Alban explains that he had to stay behind to sharpen his blade, so he couldn't go alone, and says it's a shame. He hears a knock on the door and asks if they're guests. Lucky Azalea says hello to Alban Audrin and says she's dropped by for some fun. He recognizes Lucky Azalea and calls her by name. The girl tells him it's his private quarters and that it's spacious. She envies him and says she came to have fun. Alban asks why she came. The girl explains that such a sweet girl came to his room, and he would be even happier. The guy says he's not happy about it at all and doesn't know anything about the girl. The girl says she's very interested in Alcuin and suggests they meet right now. Alban says that then at least she would come when Leticia is here, and at the same time he says that she is too familiar and not his type. The girl says what difference does it make because they are fictitious spouses without love. He says, "Hey, you." The girl explains that Alban is a virgin, and Leticia is unapproachable, and it's immediately obvious from the way he acts in class. Alban says that. The girl says he really does dream of graduating, but he's holding out, and offers to help him finish the course in her place. She explains that she knows Leticia has gone to Lower Town and won't be back anytime soon. The girl says she'll do whatever Alban wants, and says it could be anything. The man puts his hand on his pants. He tells her to get away from him. The girl responds with a question. He warns that otherwise he will kill her. The girl says, Then Alban asks what all this drama is about. The girl says that it seems like Alban is the one who's unapproachable here. The girl says he will undoubtedly become the king of Class F, but Leticia will be herself next to him, and it's not a scam. She explains that she has neither power nor influence, so she won't silently obey, and she needs a place as queen next to the king. The girl warns that. A woman asks Alban if anyone has been in his room. Alban says Lucky set a honey trap, but he held out and threw her out. The woman exclaims something in response. Alban confirms he saw Lucky naked, and the woman clarifies, meaning he saw her. He says that he touched her, and the girl explains that it was more likely that she was climbing on him. Leticia asks if she really smells like a virgin, and immediately replies that perhaps now is the time. Alban tells Leticia that she saw through him at first glance, and repeats the word now. The girl says she knows he's been looking out for her all this time, but the situation is more than serious. Alban says he'll put his own body on the line tonight. The woman says that her Leticia is calling the man herself. The woman asks Alban if he wants her. He looks at the woman silently. Alban says he really wants to. The text says he lost his virginity that night. The woman says she can't believe he actually did it, and the girl says it was unexpected. He explains that he did it for her and now they can be together. The woman and girl listen, and he smiles and holds the woman's hand. The guy explains that they seem to be even more confident and harmonious than before. The man says that their aura has changed or something. The girl asks if something really happened between them. The girl greets Alban and says she's worried about the pledge because he was tossing and turning yesterday. The girl announces that she'll finally be with her today. The guy looks at them. The girl with the pigtails claps her hands joyfully, and Alban watches them in surprise. The girl says that he became the first and is already losing his vigilance, and also calls him a kitten who does not know how to seduce even a male. The woman says that in the man's eyes, she's still a naive simpleton and notes that she's been outplayed, but he's playing well. The man asks what's going on here. The girl with the two ponytails watches silently. The girl turns away from the man and leaves with another girl. The man says he is their knight and asks to speak with him anytime. Alban asks Leo if he wants to become king. Leo replies that he doesn't have what it takes to be a king, and that he'd rather become even stronger so that he can one day surpass them. He says that it seems to him that this world is trying to make Leonil knock it down. Alban asks why, and the boy explains that he felt like he couldn't leave it like that and says he's vague. The boy promises it will be beneficial and offers to practice fencing with him from time to time. Alban says he'll keep an eye on it for now and expresses doubt. The man attracts everyone's attention. The girl announces that she will file an objection to the outcome of the duel. He says that Ivan Scottish Jr. that this time. The man announces that he has a proposal regarding the choice of the king. Alban says that if he can't win, he will die. The man explains that to become king, strength, intelligence, and courage are required, and as proof of this, the bravest winner will be the one who returns from the very depths of the Dawn Dungeon with the herb ingredient for potions. He will be recognized as the bravest winner. The guy asks if they're sure they won't participate. The girl says she's also passing, and the guy explains that it's clear Alban will be the first to pass. Alban confirms this. The guy declares a Class F battle for the grass for the ground and says it's about to begin. The goblin growls. He says that this time he will definitely distinguish himself in battle, and the girl asks him not to brag about some goblin. The girl says it's a nuisance. She strikes the beast's head, surprising the man and woman behind her. The beast says its brains are all over the place. The man and woman look on in amazement, and the girl laughs. Alban tells her to go to hell. The woman thanks him for the match and says she's always been so incredibly strong, and the man turns to Estelle. The boy thanks her for the cleanup, but the girl is surprised and asks him to wait for her. He says it's as expected from Baron Odrin. The man explains that if he enhances his speed with a spell, he'll be on par with Alban in a single run. Alban says that Baron Odrin has no intention of giving up the king's throne. The man says that there are those who are not at all happy with the fact that power in the classroom is concentrated in the hands of a married couple. He apologizes for making the king wait. Knight Leonil Highland announces his arrival, and the girl says she's with them. The man explains he's leading them now and remarks that this is where the most stupid stuff is. The boy asks to walk alongside, and Alban tells him to shut up. The three prepare for action. He reports that there's no sign of any potion herbs here. The man and the girl discuss whether the magic of transporting them had perhaps transported them directly to the potion herbs. The man says that transport magic shouldn't be in a place like this. He orders them to move aside, apologizing to Lucky. Then he makes a motion, calling. The boy and girl ask if they're okay. Alban confirms they are. The man in glasses is surprised and asks what that is. The Cyclops appears before them. The monster makes a sound. The girl and he say they don't understand why such a rare monster is here at all. The guy says that this is not at all what they were talking about. Then the guy with the gun expresses bewilderment and surprise, after which the guy with glasses decisively repels the attack, defending himself from a powerful blow. A boy? A girl? And Alban see a huge monster with a club smashing through a wall, and the boy shouts, "Ivan." Alban looks at the monster and says that Ivan, a dumb brute, shouldn't be so high-handed. Then Alban strikes the monster. The girl tells Lucky to take care of Ivan and bring him back to his senses, and he agrees. He tells Leo that they'll corner the enemy. Leo asks if he'll join him and receives his consent. Leo then says he'll do as he commands and calls him his king.